Welcome to our session, wsTOOLS for Service Users. I am Cheryl Simmons. I'm very excited that you've joined this session to walk through and learn more about all of our wsTOOLs that service users can use to make themselves more productive and more efficient. So let's get started. These are the first tools that we'll walk through: Time Correct, Simply Use, Vendor Change, PO Rolldown, Copy Paste, Select Cost Transfer, Web Time Entry, and Auto List. Time Correct. Time Correct is our feature that allows you to take transactions that have come into TimeTrack and been committed and actually reverse them. And if you want to, we have two choices. You can just reverse them, or you can reverse and create a copy of the transaction and then make your corrections that you need to. The other name for this tool that you may have heard is Union Correct. That's how it kind of originally started and kind of morphed into more Time Correct across the board. But again, it allows you to fix entries that have already been committed in the sense of reverse them out and then put them back into whether it's the correct union, the correct job information, etc. So it allows you to get all of that corrected so that your reporting is always accurate on that side. Simply Use. For those of you that need to track use transactions, this is the tool for you. When you record a payables invoice, you can go in and set up your tax schedules like you would in GPs to track use tax or to track the tax on purchases. And then when you record an invoice, you have the ability to, based on the calculation, in this case it has a $300 tax, mark the checkbox called use tax, and then it will actually create an entry for that use tax and post it to the appropriate accounts. You also notice that you get a positive negative so that your overall invoice amount does not change, but it's accounting for the use tax as you record that invoice, whether it's in payables or in purchase order. Those costs can also then be added onto your job cost or to your service. Next up is the vendor changer, and this is in two places. It's in your payables entry window as well as in your purchase order window. The screen here shows the payables entry, and again, you've entered in your transaction, you've saved it, found out that you put the wrong vendor on the transaction by selecting that accidentally. You could pull up your transaction, go into the additional menu and choose to change the vendor ID. You get this additional screen here where you can put in the correct vendor. And again, that's also on the payable side, and then here's the purchase order side. Same concept. One thing with the purchase order side too is this needs to be a new released purchase order. It can't be one that you've already received against. You can't change the vendor at that point. It has to be prior to doing any receiving against there. Next up is the feature we call PO Rolldown. For those of you that might use the copy feature, so if you have jobs or service calls where you're sending out the same thing, you're ordering the same materials and you're dropping them to a service call or job location, what you can do is use the copy functionality within purchase order and then use PO Rolldown on top of that, where you would put the service call information on line 1, come in and choose to roll down your information, and it'll automatically put it on the additional lines for you, so you don't have to manually type that in. So definitely, if you have purchase orders with a lot of lines, this will come in handy. Copy paste. This is one of our new tools, just came out in the last few months. And this gives you the capability to use really copy paste within your signature transaction entry window. Today, if you just try to use the paste functionality, it doesn't bring in their service call and job information, where this tool does. And this comes in handy if you have transactions, integration transactions, or transactions that you have in Excel that you need to record every month. You can easily copy and paste and bring them in. There's also a validation report that will print if you're trying to paste in data that's not valid, whether it has the wrong cost code on it, cost element, you're missing your other subcategory, any of those type of things. It's not in balance. Any of those type of error messages, it'll print on the report so you can fix them and then bring in your import appropriately. And again, we'll show you that one here in a few minutes. Select Cost Transfer. This is one of our most popular tools and people love to use it. This gives you the capability to take a transaction cost that was posted onto a service call and move it to a different service call. So if you accidentally post it to the wrong service call, or even in this tool, you can do it from a service call to a job. And so flexibility there of a lot of people do service calls to collect their cost information and then transfer them over into a job, because job is ultimately what is collecting the cost for the long-term engagement. And so again, from service call to service call, if it was by accident or you just need to change things up, and it can be a service call with a different division, a different call type. There's no restrictions there going between service call to service call. Only restriction I'll point out is that when you're transferring labor, you need to transfer labor cost element to labor cost element. You can't go across there. And again, we'll show that tool as well. Web time entry. This is a very useful tool for those that have people outside of their office. It's using a web browser to record labor, travel, and expenses. You can record labor against service calls, against jobs, expenses, unbilled, etc. And again, like I said, it's with a web browser, so you could use it on a computer, you could use it on a phone, you could use it on an iPad or some type of tablet device. As long as you have browser capability, you're able to do that. And this is for individuals. And again, the individuals can be technicians or not technicians. They don't have to be, they just need to be employees. And the other piece is this works with crews. And so I'll show you that as well. So let's go ahead and take a few minutes and look at some of those features that we just talked about. So the first one that we'll bring up is the PO vendor changer. So let me bring up a purchase order window. Here I got one, and we said out in order to change it, again, this is on the payables invoice and also on the purchase order, that you can go under additional, change vendor ID, and right now it's to the ABC Plumbing Company. You can use your lookup window, and I'm going to go to the travel company and commit and commit. And there we go. We have switched over now to Ace Travel is the vendor name, and this purchase order is now recorded to that vendor. So the other piece, let me go ahead and save that, is let's talk about, we said the PO roll down feature. Let's go ahead and just put service call on this one, get it attached here. All right, so we got the service and we just put it on the first line, but there is actually 4 lines on this invoice that I have copied over. Well, here's where you can do your roll down. We have job number if you've entered job information, or service call information, and it does have quick controls on it as well. All right, on to the next one is our copy paste tool. So let me bring up the transaction. So here is our signature transaction entry window, and you need to enter in the information at the top, the header information. So journal entry, give it a batch, transaction, source, and then when you're down to the line information, that's when you can do the pasting. So here we have a sample that we actually ship out with the tool, and where you can just fill in your columns as needed. And I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Over here, I'm in the right position, so I'll go ahead and choose copy paste. And you'll notice that it pasted in my transactions. Now, again, if there was invalid data, like something was wrong, like the service call information was wrong, accounts weren't accurate, not the correct cost element, like an inappropriate one, all of those would produce errors, and a validation report would print telling you what was wrong. So this time around, we didn't get any errors, so we're able to process and move forward without any problems. We'll go ahead and save those transactions. All right, on to the next one we talked about, which is select cost transfer. And like I said, this is a very powerful tool where you can choose to move costs from one service call to another, or a service call to even a job. Coming into this window, we have lots of criteria up here on the top. And so when you put in what customer number, a location number, service call, and you can fill in all of these, one of these, and upon filling that in, click redisplay. And that will bring in your transactions to the lower half of the window. You can also filter by cost code. So let's say you know that there was a transaction posted, you know what customer it was posted on, and you know what type it was. You could even limit that. Like if you knew it was a labor transaction, you could just mark your labor bucket here, this checkbox, unmark the others, and redisplay, and it would only show you your labor transactions. So useful criteria for really breaking down what you're looking for. I have just entered in customer numbers, so you'll see this customer has lots of service calls that are listed in here, and you can choose how you want to sort this window down here on the bottom. So payroll transactions, inventory, purchase order, manual transactions, they're all in here. I want to take just a moment and take a look at purchase order entries because these are a little bit different. So let's go ahead and highlight one of these and go into related transactions. So with the purchase order, we need to take all transactions that are related, which would be any receivings transactions, return transactions, bill shipment invoice. All of those would need to go with the purchase order as you're transferring it from one service call to another. And so here in this window, we will show you any related transactions to that purchase order that you mark on the first window. And there's multiple ways to get to these related transactions. You're going to see down here as I clicked on the blue related transactions, as well as there's an icon on top over here, which does the same thing. There are totals down here too for related transactions. So when you're marking transactions, it'll start adding them from both a cost perspective and billable perspective. Billable will be recalculated as it goes to the new service call based on the criteria that you have on that service call for pricing. As I mentioned, manual transactions, you can pick and choose of which ones that you want to send over. So let's go ahead and just choose a transaction. And then you'll notice once you have a transaction highlighted down here below and selected, you get the ability for transfer job and transfer service call. The other piece is if you wanted to transfer everything that you see down in this scrolling window, you would just go ahead and mark this box here. We also have additional lines. So depending on the different transaction types, the different data will be displayed. So for example, we have item numbers in here. We have customer information in here. We have, let's see, you should see employees information in here. Yep, right here, a labor transaction. So you have the employee information, his department, his pay code. And this is a window that you can secure and only give access to certain people because there are some sensitive information in here that maybe you don't want everyone to be able to see at this level. The other thing is any transfers that you're doing, we are storing those in a history table. So we're able to display that in a smart list so you can see what data was transferred between one service call to another, who was doing the transfer, what date that transfer was done, all of that. So again, that's visual into a table, and we could certainly put that in a smart list for viewing the data. All right, so once you have a transaction selected and we're ready to go, let's see, I got this one marked. I'm going to say go ahead and transfer to a service call. Again, either option is a possibility. We're going to say to a service call, and here it springs in one record selected. Again, like we said, cost and billable is keeping track of that. If I had a purchase order selected, it would show those related transactions over here on the right with a cost and billable for them as well. For the service call, now again, you're not restricted to going to a service call to the same customer. So any customer that you would want to send it to, you can. And we're going to click transfer. And what's going to happen is it's going to take and transfer that particular line item from one service call to another, as well as it's going to make the general ledger entries that are needed appropriately, because it could be that you're going across divisions, you're going across cost elements, any of those type of things can be happening as well. And so we want to make sure, especially when you go from service call to job, right? There's different posting accounts between those two modules. So we'll go ahead and choose transfer. And now that data will now be recorded onto the new service call, and it's created the GL entry to reverse that off of the service call that it came from. And you will need to post that transaction in general ledger so that your service call is reflected appropriately that it came from, because it's still showing the negative cost until those transactions get posted. So positive and negative to offset the original transaction. Next up was the web time entry tool, and let's take a look at that. Let me bring up web time entry. So as you go into web time entry, again, we say this is a web browser tool, and this is where you can record labor expense against a job cost or a service call or an unbilled as well. As you go in, I'm going to get logged in here. I'm going to be Alan. You have the ability to enter transactions for an individual or for a crew. So I'll start out doing transactions for an individual. And when we get to the crew entry, it's the same window look and feel as the individual, except for you're entering it for the crew that is set up within TimeTrack. All right, you're in your data entry window here. So we would select, I want a new transaction for the current week. And it's all in drop down. So is this for job cost or service or an unbilled transaction? So we'll say service, what day of the week it is, and so you record that. Here's where you're putting in your job or your service call based on your entry above it. So within web time entry setup, you can determine what you want to see in this window. You can pick and choose certain service calls to appear in the lookup window. You can say any open service calls, or you can also base it on appointments. So if they're technicians, it can be an appointment. So then they would only see theirs in this list. Cost type, this is where you're deciding, is this a labor expense transaction? We'll go ahead and record labor. Here's your cost categories that you have set up in service. These would be pay codes specifically to me, to Alan, and you can see those listed here. So they would only see the ones that are assigned to them. Description, you could type in a description of what they were doing, and that will come over because all these transactions are going to feed into TimeTrack, just like your mobile tech transactions do, your clock transactions. They're all going to the same place. So again, you can still do your approvals over there. You can still do edits, those things. All right, so we got the data entered, and we're going to click Update. So what this does is just show that I've entered this transaction in my browser. I have not pushed it yet back to the back office, so that's what submit time does. So I still have the ability to edit or even delete the transaction if I totally screwed up. And you can continue to enter more. So we'll go ahead and submit time, and at this point, it is sending that transaction back into TimeTrack, creating a batch, just like you would from your mobile tech transactions. And inside of web time entry setup, within the back office, you choose how you want your batches. Do you want them to be based on department, based on employee, a custom name, as well as you can put the dates on them, so you can have transactions for every day separated out, for the week. Again, all choices within the back office. So that data got in and sent over to the back office, and people always go, okay, what did I enter? Do I remember? There's this view history option. So here you can see all of the transactions that I've entered for this current week for Alan. So I've done some service call transactions, I've done some job cost transactions, and again, you can see, okay, yep, I got 22 hours in, yep, that sounds right for the number of days that I've been working. As well as you can see last week for the number of transactions that you've entered as well. And you don't have to remember your week ending date or any of those kind of things and type in, the date range that you want to see. So that customers seem to really appreciate. The next thing is, let's take a step back and look at crew. I just want to take a few minutes and show you that as well. I'm going to log in as Alan again and pull in my crew information. So this would be if you are responsible for logging time for a crew, multiple people. And it could be that your crew is always with you, or it might change a little bit, and I'll show you what you can do to help with that. So here again, we're going to enter in a service call transaction. Pick the day of the week that you're working, the service call that you've entered. I'm going to do my labor transaction, and again, cost code. So the pay code this time around would be pay codes that your work crew have in common, because you can only enter transactions for everybody. So everybody has to have that pay code. So we'll go ahead and choose hourly pay code. And let's go ahead and put in 5 hours for this crew. You're going to notice that we have another tab up here. Notes has always been there, but crew, so these are the people in my crew with me. And I can choose to not include somebody right here by unmarking this checkbox and say that, Alice wasn't there, or I can just let it ride and click insert. And again, it's going to show me all the transactions that it's created. And maybe we say, I don't think Alice was there all day, so she had to leave early for an appointment. So I can go in and just edit Alice and bring her down to 4 hours and click update. And now she's at 4 hours and the rest of us are at 5 hours. And again, upon submitting time, all of this will be pushed back to time track. Quick, easy functionality. I mean, that web time entry was really geared to be simple for people to use, using drop downs, picking the data that they need, and getting the data in as quickly and efficiently as they can back into the time track. So that's it for the demo on this piece. I'm going to go ahead and switch back over to our slideshow. And Nautilus was the last feature in this section that we were going to talk about. And Nautilus is a tool that is really used to automate tasks off of your navigation list. And what we've seen customers do with this is really take and build navigation lists of replacement parts or things that they need to be taking out for their service calls, creating invoices off of that for those replacement parts and having it automatically do that. And again, reducing human interaction and saving hours. We have the great example from Duane at RP Power, and he's going to talk about that right now.
Hi, I'm Duane Quisenberry. I work for RP Power, and I'm a user of Quick Find, Auto Charge, and Auto List. And I'm going to talk about Auto List. That's probably my favorite product right now that we are using. We came up with this idea because we wanted to leverage the tasking and the replacement parts on the equipment and automatically apply it to the service calls. We feel that this process has allowed the parts department to be proactive in confirming parts availability for scheduled calls, and it's allowed us to shave time off of posting parts to calls to probably about 2 minutes per transaction. We've saved probably about 15 hours a month in transaction time. We just recently acquired new territory, and that will also be a benefit to our company because now we've probably doubled the size of our business, but we will not have to hire additional administrative staff because of the tools that we have in place that can handle the volume and transactions that we have now.
Thanks, Duane, for those nice words. Now on to some more tools. All right, our next section, we're going to cover 4 more tools. We're going to talk about billing escalations, auto charge, void reopen, and quick mail, all around invoicing. So on to billing escalations. So this tool really helps you keep an eye on getting your invoices out as quickly as you can. If you have in your company a set amount of time where you're like, I'd like to invoice within 5 days, you can set up criteria within billing escalations and see that with that 3 days where things are at 4 days, 5 days, where it starts communicating to different people to say, hey, we have invoices that are 5 days since we've done the work, but we haven't invoiced them yet, or 7 days, we're past due, what's going on, and really escalating that up. That's what billing escalation is built for. Next up is auto charge. And this is a fun tool. This lets you add cost onto your invoices and to be billed, as well as offer discounts. So it lets you do criteria for all the different, discounts. If you wanted to give, a spring discount, let's say, and you wanted to set it up for particular customers, particular class groups, there's all types of criteria that you could specify of who gets the discount or who gets the additional fee. And it might be, a trip charge where every time you roll a truck to a customer site, you charge a specific dollar amount. You can put those on there. So again, it's discounts, it's fees, as well as additional labor that you could add on based on criteria. And we'll take a look at that. Void reopen, and customers love void reopen. If you haven't heard about it, listen up. This one's a fun one. So when you have an invoice that you've done through, service invoice, you've posted it, and it turns out that, oh, that wasn't right. You had a cost on there that shouldn't have been, or you had costs that should have been on there that wasn't. So you don't want to send them the invoice because you need to charge them more. Either way, right? So what Void Reopen allows you to do is go into the Void window inside of Receivables and void the transaction. And when you have Void Reopen installed in your environment, what will happen is it will ask you if you want to reopen the service call for billing. So if you say yes, it's going to reverse out that transaction and reopen your service invoice with the costs that were on it from before, so that you can, like you said, if you need additional costs that you need to post, you can do that. Or if there's a cost on there that shouldn't be on there and you should use select cost transfer and transfer to a different service call, you can do that as well. But Void Reopen basically resets you back into the invoice window so that you can make the changes that are needed at that point. In Quick Mail, again, dealing with invoicing. So if you have service invoices that you want to be mailing to your customer electronically through, this is the way to do it, as well as it creates an attachment onto your service call with the invoice that it's created and that it's emailing out to the customer. And you can have those attachments just like wsTOOLS attached into the database or out into the network. You can select roles to send for the email, like if it always goes to the accounts payable person at your customer's site, you can set up based on a role, set up an email address. However you want to name your document that you're sending with them, that's in the setup. Which report to send, because there may be certain customers that always get report 1, other customers always get report 3. Again, you can set up all that default information within setup, and you don't even have to think about it when you go to print out Quick Mail. And again, we'll look at that one as well. So let's switch over to GP. And the first one we're going to take a look at is auto charge. Let's open the auto charge window. All right, so first thing you do for auto charge is set up the criteria that you want for your rules. And so let's go ahead, there's a couple already set up in here. Let's take a look. Trip charge was one that we talked about earlier, where if you charge a specific dollar amount every time you travel to them, and again, it could be based on criteria, that's another type we can do, but this would be just a flat rate. Go in and put in your rule name, and the description will actually show up on the cost transaction that it creates. And so from a description standpoint, you want to make sure that that is something you want the customers to see, so type that in. Then the next part is, who is this rule targeted at? And there are lots of functionality pieces here that to choose from. Is it to everybody? All new invoices are going to get this charge no matter what. Is it the certain divisions are going to get this charge? Customer classes, even down to the specific customer and customer location, you could get that granular to decide who's going to get the specific charge. Call types, like emergency call types, maybe you tack on an additional fee. You can do that here. Specific pay codes, like if you are working on Saturday and Sundays, maybe you tie on an additional labor fee for that piece of it. Again, lots of criteria here for you to do. And then you get the option to choose, is this a discount? Is it a labor charge? Is it a fee? And in this case, I'm doing an invoice fee, fixed amount for $39, and I'm going to put it into the other cost category of trip charge. Okay, so all new invoices are going to get that one. Let's see, I do have one other one in here too I want to take a look at. So let's look at the spring discount. So here I'm doing a spring discount, applying that to everyone. A discount, I'm saying it's 10%. I'm going to put it into the trip charge, and this applies to the labor, so 10% on my labor. is how I have this categorized for my spring discount. Okay. And again, you probably have some unique cost categories that you would set up, probably one for discount to track those separately. But again, you drive that drives the posting accounts that it will use, etc. So, all right, so we do have a few auto charges set up. So let's go see them in action, because once you set them up, you want to apply them to our invoices. So let's go ahead and pull up our service invoice. And here we have one that's already got transactions, posted, material, labor. You can see them all here. It's ready to go. It's in a complete status. So if we go up under additional, we have add auto charges. And this is going to go out based on the criteria, see which one it qualifies for, and then go ahead and post those. And I had opened up my window, so it's asking me to validate that. Okay, so let's go in and take a look at other, because that is where it's going to be posting them. So here we have those two additional charges. So one is the trip charge for $39 that got pulled in, as well as you remember we had a spring discount, and that was 10% of labor. And if you can see back here, labor is $260, 10% would be $26 is how it made that calculation. All right, so let's go in and take a look at the void piece. So into our sales and into our posted transactions. And we had customer 204. It's a sales invoice. If we use the lookup window, we should be able to find the one that we just did, 159, bringing in all the information that we had before. We'll go ahead and choose void. Here's our question. Do you wish to re-invoice the service call now? And we're going to say yes. And there's our voided transaction posting journal. Now that I've voided the invoice and brought the service invoice back up, you'll see that our transactions are back. If you remember, we had 260 posted in here for labor, costs posted in for other material. So this allows you to bring back the invoice, and it did increment the number because it kept 159 as a voided invoice. So then again, you could make changes to this invoice, do what you needed to do, and move forward. So that's what void invoice allows you to do. Next up is quick mail, and let me go ahead and bring up my GP here. So let's bring up our setup window so you can take a look at that. So within quick mail setup, you get the ability to turn on and off which documents that you want to do quick mail for. And that would be the ability to invoice and email that invoice and have the attachment go on to the master record. And so here, let's take a look at our service invoice setup. We are choosing to enable quick mail so that we can do the emailing from here. We are sending our attachments to the database, the SQL database, or the other option is network, and then you put in a file path for that. We're just choosing to do invoice one, whatever you may be calling that. Here is where we're specifying the name that we want to call the invoice or the attachment, the document that we're going to create. And in this case, it's an invoice. We have templates that will put in dear so-and-so, here's how much your invoice is, it's attached, and again, you can alter and edit all of these things to make it more personalized to you and your business. You put in a subject line that you want on your emails. You can also get down to the role level and specify, for this role is who I want the email to go to, and then it will go to your contact management and get the emails off of there and bring that data in. So as well as you can go to the customer level and customer location level to set up this detail as well if it's different by customer versus just by document type. So we are set up for quick mail for service invoice. So let's again go back into our invoice window here. We have the additional option for quick mail. And it's going back and reading all of those options that we had set up. Well, and it looks like my email went off to the other window here. Let me bring that up. So here again, it's the service invoice number 61 for customer 204. It's bringing in the invoice information, shows that it's 6902. It's got the information here, and we have set it to go to the accounts payable. That's in our template. And here I'll type in who to send it to. And you can send it to more than one email address. And again, if you have multiple roles assigned to that email, you can also, put it on that way as well. You could change any of this if you had a different template that you wanted to use, or change the subject line. Again, those are defaults coming in from setup. In here, you're going to see that it did bring in the information for your invoice, and it's already selected, it's already attached. And this naming convention is based on that setup as well. And at this point, you would just go ahead and click email, log it. You would have to give your email exchange, if that's what you're using, information in order to send it, and then it would be on its way. And again, it's created that attachment onto the service call. And here's the capability to add other attachments. So for example, if you wanted to add a call summary report, an inspection report, or any other kind of documentation that you secure that you want to send to the customer with their invoice, you could easily add that here, whether that's another document attachment that's in the WsDocs table, or just something out onto a network drive. You can attach those all here as well and send them with that email. So that is QuickMail in just a few minutes. All right, we want to take another quick break, and we are going to hear from Kristen from Egan. She's going to tell us about the tools that she's purchased and that she's got up and going in her business. Thanks, Kristen.
Hi, my name is Kristen Lade. I work for Egan Company. I am an internal operations supervisor for our service division. The tools that we have purchased are Select Cost Transfer, Quick Find, and Void Reopen, and looking to add a few more this next year.
Problem you were looking to solve before purchasing wsTOOLS?
One of the problems that we have in our service group is that we have contracts with some of our customers that allow our customers to apply labor to a contract, but we still need to bill material. And Select Cost Transfer just made that process quicker for us to be able to go into a service call, grab the labor, go and apply it to another service call so you can then put it to a contract and just have all the back-end work done for you. It didn't have to then be touched necessarily by a biller or an accountant, so we could keep the workflow moving faster. wsTOOLS has done a great job of educating people. The online webinars that they host are worthwhile. They continue to improve their tools that they have, but also find other things. So it's a worthwhile investment for your company.
Kristen, thank you for sharing. All right, guys, we're down to the final slides of our service tools. And as you can see, this is a pretty long slide. We have lots more to talk about. And again, we'll talk about each of these at a high level. And if you want more information on them, please reach out to us. So let's get started. First up, Quick Find. And this is a useful tool for finding information in your system, whether it's customers, vendors, service calls, or invoices. And you can just type in partial information and it'll find that for you, as well as you can even type it wrong, and using the intuitive search, it might be able to help identify the data that you were looking for. Quick PO, this is something that helps from a standpoint of technicians or those that are out of the office who could send you an email to a designated email box, and it would return back to them a purchase order number. So maybe they need that purchase order number to get something in a store, and they can get the information, put it on their credit card, and then send that information back to the back office saying it goes with purchase order X. And this just allows that whole process without having to call into someone and talk to somebody in the back office. They can get the purchase order number as quickly as they need it, and then the rest of the information can be filled in later. Quick Call and Quick Quote. Again, very similar to Quick PO, where you send in an email and it automatically returns that information for you. So in this case, it's send in an email and it's creating a service call for you. And then if you're using mobile tech, you can get that service call, sent back down to your mobile device. A Quick Quote is very similar. It's creating a call with specific quote information on it. so that, again, it gets it into the system quickly using an email system to feed it into your key to act. Auto open, this allows transactions to still come in and not get blocked by service calls that are closed, and it allows them to be set back down to complete and lets your costs come in, whether it's from mobile tech, e-time track, web time entry, etc. Dispatch Center. We could spend quite a lot of time on Dispatch Center. There are 5 different areas on Dispatch Center. It's customer care, so it's all about your customer. You can see their data. Technician scheduling, so you can schedule, rearrange things, update your schedule. Machine schedule billing, here's where you can schedule your tools as well as charge for them back onto a service invoice for renting that crane. Those type of things comes in handy for those, as well as we added prospect and contracts. So prospect is out tracking your opportunities and your tasks that go with tracking, kind of a mini CRM. And then contract is more on the renewal side, keeping tabs of these are the contracts that need to be renewed this next month. You can send them emails from Dispatch Center. You can give them a new quote. And once that's been solidified, enter in the data back into Signature. Drawer, this is in 4 different areas for employee, customer, vendor, and inventory. And it allows you to secure all 10 folders at different levels. So it might be 3 people get access to your application in this example, 4 people can see the I-9, but when it comes to benefits, only your HR department can see that, as well as termination would be something the manager needs to have access to. And again, all of that is by security, by the color coding of the folder. So, and it works with your document attachment system. Customer and vendor modifier. So this is, you might think, I have this tool within Dynamics GP, and you do. This particular tool adds on the capability to update the service, job cost, and equipment tables. And so when you're running, let's say, customer combiner, bringing 2 customers together, it's actually updating job cost and service information as well as your receivables on the Dynamics GP side. Speed switch, and this is for speeding up companies that have US payroll and lots of employees. At one point it used to register based on employee count, and so that information is still in the code for Dynamics GP, but it's not using it anymore from a registration standpoint. So by applying speed switch, it takes that out of the running. So when you're switching from company to company, it's no longer having to run and count the employees. Power BI, this is something we offer at Implementation Specialist, is if you want Power BI dashboards built for job cost and service, here's the different data that you can get. You can see here, this one is actually built for service call over here on this dashboard, and it shows just number of calls, open calls. You can, of course, do them by division. And again, just taking a look at data, whether it's job cost or service. Those are all of our current tools. This next map is our roadmap, this slide, and it takes us through what we've accomplished throughout the several years that we've started building wsTOOLS, as well as some of the features that we're still looking to build here in 2020. You'll see quick mail, which we talked about, and the copy paste functionality. We also have a new connector coming out with Avalara. And we are looking at doing void invoices for the maintenance side, as well as web time entry approvals. If there are other features that you thought of today while you sat through this session, or if there's tools that you have that you wish it had additional functionality, please share that with us. We would love to hear those comments back to us, because we continue to make our tools better, and I want to hear exactly how they are shortcomings or things that you would like to see added. Also, too, there is a customer conference that we host here for Implementation Specialists, and it's at the Fargo campus, Microsoft campus, and we have Key to Act days as well as GP days, and it's in the month of November, so you got a few more months for planning, but please take a look at that on our site. We have the link here, GPUC is what we call it, and we would love for you to attend that as well. For those questions or comments that you had as we went along the way, you're like, oh, I want to see a demo of that. I want to dig in a little bit deeper. Pricing, how does that work? Contact us here. Here's our phone number, support@IS Corp or sales@IS Corp. Either one will work for getting the questions answered and getting you the right information. And again, we would love to do more demos with you, talk through any of the tools and how they could really benefit you and how they work with your current data that you have. So again, thank you for listening. Greatly appreciate it. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Wait, everyone. I want to make sure you know about our Synergy specials. If you buy one product, you get 10% off. 2 products, 20%. If you buy 3 or more, 30% off your tools. So definitely check us out. If you have any questions, here's our contact information at sales@iscorp.biz, our phone number, or again, our website to check out our tools. Look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.